Africa is a really massive continent, and most people don't even realize just how massive it is. Looking on a map, its size seems pretty unimpressive, and it looks to be a similar size to Greenland. But in reality, the continent is more than 14 times larger.
What up, friend? Are you African? And are you proud to be an African? Hey, friend, welcome to So African TV. I go by Harry Billion. It's our time. We are in such a time where being an African is accepted. How do we get here? How do we move from here? It's time for us to use this opportunity that we've been given to actually maximize it and step into a new generation where young Africans, old Africans, Africans in the diaspora, Africans that are on the mainland or on the grounds in Africa, we have to use these opportunities to advance our culture, advance the things that we want to do, make Africa better, and allow people to understand that Africa is something you're just going to talk about any kind of way and think that we are a laughing stock that you can joke around with anytime you want. My friends, my countrymen, whether you are in the diaspora or you are on the grounds in Africa, I welcome you to this discussion. I welcome you to So African TV. I started this journey a couple of years ago. The reason why I started this journey is because I live in America, and in America, people make fun of Africans. When you're young in school, you get made fun of. I know a lot of you that are in the diaspora, whether you live in America or you live elsewhere, I know a lot of you have experienced some of the things that I have experienced, and you're probably utterly tired or disgusted with it, and you want to do something. I, like many who, when you get here in America, you're not welcomed with open arms, especially if you're younger, right? Because we don't all come here at the same age. We come here at different ages, and our experiences are going to be different. But I came here at a young age, at the young, tender age of 12. It's not like I was treated terribly, but in the pockets of the communities that I lived in, there was a sense of people are not feeling Africans, and Africans are not as welcome as you would think. Over the years of being teased, being called African booty scratcher, and all kinds of names that made me feel some kind of way and made me feel small, shrinking in, and then denouncing my own Africanness. Not until I grew up and became a lot older and understood who I was, graduating from college, and then say, you know what? I accept who I am, and I am who I am. And I thank God for making me an African and giving me this opportunity to be a voice in the community. So here we are. With everybody making fun of us and all of these things that were going on, I realized that the Africans in the diaspora, especially, and I'm going to speak specifically for the Africans that are in the diaspora in America, because that is my personal experience, because I live in New York. So my experience is for Americans, and you can add to the conversation based on your experience living in other places around the world. Being much older, being more confident, more mature, I decided, you know what? God has given me a voice, and I'm going to use it. No matter how small that voice is currently, I'm going to use it. So several years ago, me loving hip hop and being in the hip hop community as a film director, as a music video director, and dealing with hip hop artists, I had the pleasure of actually direct a short film which starred the late DMX. But I've dealt with a lot of hip hop artists over the years, all the way from college up until when I just said I don't want to direct music videos anymore. I didn't make it big as a music video director in the hip hop community. I didn't make it big at all, but I'm just telling you, I have my experiences directing hip hop music videos on a small scale, to the point to where I was actually fortunate enough to meet the late DMX and meet some hip hop legends along the way. All right, even though I didn't make it that big. So with my experience and the things that I have noticed in the community, dealing with African Americans, dealing with the hip hop community, I started a clothing line called So African Clothing several years ago. And some of you may have recognized this young man going to and from work in Brooklyn to Manhattan, bumping African music way long before the whole Afrobeat thing started off and it was hit off by Davido. If you remember that, put that in the comments. Long before. And then in Brooklyn, if you remember, at one of the train stations in the hood, I think it was 14th Street, coming out of the train station and seeing some So African clothing at the train station being sold by a lady there. If you remember, put that in the comments. The reason why I'm saying this is our time. It's time for us young Africans, old Africans alike, to take this moment that God has granted us, where Afrobeat and Afro music has made it on the world scene. Afrobeat is currently leading, is one of the biggest genres right now in music. While the world is up on us, we have to capitalize on this opportunity. So if you felt shame to be an African, if somebody ever asks you, hey, are you African? And because of the way that you were teased, or because of the way that people perceived Africans to be, you felt it was better for you to say you were Jamaican or you were another nationality. If you felt some kind of way, I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to give you a virtual hug and say, my brother or my sister, is okay. But here we are now, where African and African things, African music, African food, African culture is accepted now on a social level, and we cannot sit by and miss this opportunity to strike and make African and African things okay in the eyes of the world. Because it hurts my feeling to sit back and hear somebody say, go back to Africa, and the reception, get this, the reception is not one of joy, it's one of anger and argument. There's gonna come a day where when somebody says, go back to Africa, you know what it's gonna sound like and it's gonna feel like? It's gonna feel like joy inside of your body. We have work to do, and I'm here as your guy. I go by Harry Billion. I'm here to do the work. I'm not waiting for Superman no longer. I'm not waiting for Superman. I'm Superman. You're Superman and you're Superwoman. We're going to do this. There's a lot of work to be done in the sense of Africa is almost like a land that is undiscovered. I'm from Liberia, West Africa. The young people in Liberia, they go to school. When they graduate, the jobs that are out there that are available in Liberia, mostly only government jobs are available. Not enough private sector jobs are available for young people graduating for them to be able to make a living for themselves, feed their families. Contrastly, the ones that are in the diaspora like myself, we are out here in America or out somewhere else. London, some of the favorite places, London, you know, that UK accent we all love. All right, bruv, I'm from London, bruv. All right, we try so hard to be UK. You feel me? We go to school in the diaspora, we graduate. Some of us want to go back home, but the lifestyle that we have established in the diaspora, in America, in the UK, the Philippines, wherever we are, the lifestyle that we have established, being now educated, it's hard to detach from that lifestyle and to actually say, I'm going back to my country, whether it's Liberia, Ghana, Nigeria, Togo, wherever you are in Africa, Timbuktu, South Africa, wherever, right? When we graduate, it is hard for us to leave that life because some of us, we have married, we have children, we have a family that we're raising, and the income that we are familiar with, the income that we are used to, it is hard for us to leave that income and that lifestyle, that comfortability, leave it and go back to our countries where the opportunities are not the same. But I'm here for us to have a discussion to start making some moves in order for us to make sure that our countries have the right leadership, to make sure that we are putting pressure on our leaders to be mindful of the local economy, bringing in jobs so that we can start this migration back to Africa, so that a lot more of us, when we graduate from abroad, we can go home and start to build our economy. There's a flip side to this conversation, though. I just want to let you know there's a flip side. There's another side to this conversation. And that side has to do with those who are entrepreneurs. Like, I'm going to call out Wodamaya. Those who are entrepreneurs, like Wodamaya always says, you can be a pioneer, you can be a leader, and you can start the movement. You don't have to wait until everything is great and then make that move. You can do that now. Before you do that, though, be educated. Educate yourself, understand the restrictions that are in that country, inform yourself, and then make the move. If you are strong enough to do that. Not everybody's going to do that. My goal here is not to start pointing fingers and say, you're wrong. Why don't you just do this? Why don't you do that now? My thing is, as a leader in the community, let's do it the right way, and let's make sure that we adhere to each person's personal issues and make sure that but we provide an avenue for each person to be comfortable enough to make that move. So the work begins. All of the talks of African booty scratcher, we got to put that behind us now. We have some healing to do also, because the African American, the European African, the Brazilian African, the Jamaican African, the Caribbean African, the Asian African, we're not all united and we're not all on the same page. There are blacks right here in America that sadly don't believe that they're African. Nobody is truly an American besides the Native Americans. When Christopher Columbus came and discovered America, people were already here. We call them Indians. We respectfully call them Native Americans, and that's what they would prefer to be, Native Americans. They're native to America. They were already here, occupying the land respectfully. When white Americans who are nationalists, they don't ever say, my parents are not from Ireland, or my parents are not Polish or from Germany or Italian or anything like that. As strong of an American as they are, they never denounce where their ancestors came from. I never hear it. And I'm not discounting that it may be out there, and there are some whites that just say, I'm an American, I'm not from anywhere else. But in popular conversation, it's rare for me to hear somebody who's white, who's Caucasian. It's rare for me to hear them say, my parents are not from anywhere else, they're from here. So I come back to this whole idea of a black person who denounces their African origin. I'm not talking about the general conversation where we say even white people are from Africa, where the whole world is from Africa. I'm not even there yet. So it's time for us to start dealing from within, all right? Because if Africans around the world are going to be okay, to be taken care of, if we're going to take care of our own people, then we have to start doing the work. I'm not suggesting that I'm starting it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just not waiting for anybody else. There are a lot of people that have started doing the work a long time ago, just like I have. I started the clothing line, So African Clothing, because in the hip hop community, I felt like the young black man, the young black girl, young black people, period, would rather wear something that says Japan or Tokyo on it or Paris on it. But if it said African, they shun that. So it was on. I said, all right, I got work to do. So African Clothing. So I got work to do. I've been working for years behind the scenes. You may not know my name. You may not know who I am, but for years, I've been working quietly, having conversations. And now I'm ready to put myself out there in the public and lead the charge. I want to be one of the leaders. You got a lot of leaders, people that have been working hard, that's been doing a lot more than me. I've been quietly leading, as you're supposed to do, educating yourself, getting ready for the battle, because you're not fighting just people, you're fighting spirits also. So I had to get my Christian life correct. And I'm going to fight a lot of battles, and people are talking about African spirituality. There's a lot of battles, but I had to get right in order for me to be right. Because I was in one of the biggest cities in the world, Manhattan, Brooklyn, New York. I was in New York, guys. I started this clothing line just so I could continue the work that I was doing. So African Clothing. We are a Brooklyn, New York-based urban street apparel company focused entirely on Africa. We make Africa hot. And I started designing clothes, and I started putting them out there. African girl, clothes like these, young Africans, RIP stereotypes, rated African. That's my boy right there I used to work with. When Donald Trump said that we were pieces of, S, when he said that, I said, all right, that's me. You can see me right there holding that. Designs like this, an African will lead them. You can see Obama's face right there on the design. The one that right there that says, go back to Africa. Now it's like, it sounds like music to my ears. Rated African, young African, stereotype killers. That's one of my favorites. When I wear that one out there, oh man, it gets a lot of attention. Unapologetically African. My personal favorite one is Racist People Suck one. Oh man, that one gets a lot of attention. A whole heck of a lot of attention. Anytime I go out, I wear that one. Let's get down to business. The purpose of this is not for me to sell you t-shirts. That's an icebreaker. The purpose of this is to put the message out there to let people know that I'm not ashamed of being African. So I'm not here to sell you t-shirts. I'm here to work. You see, a lot of what's going on with black people in America and around the globe, no matter where you go, we're not accepted, even in South Africa. Majority of the white South Africans live way better than the black South Africans. We got work to do. You know why that is? It's because of how they look at us. It's because of how they think of us. We got to accept us. We got to work from within. It starts with that. If you got people here in America that don't believe that they're Africans, you know why they think that? It has nothing to do with, oh, I'm an American and all of that. It has a lot to do with the psychological degradation of Africa over the years. People promoting Western culture. People telling you that Africa, dark skin, black skin is not beautiful. All of these years of degrading who we are as a people has led to you saying you're not African. In turn, what you're doing is just plainly saying that America is more attractive. Africa is not attractive. So I don't associate with Africa. If Africa was well developed and nobody was having any type of negative connotation, you would have no issue being called an African. So I know psychologically what they're doing, and I know why some of these blacks don't want to be associated with being an African. I don't know how many Jamaicans, especially when they're winning the Olympics all the time, I don't know how well they did in 2024, but when you had Usain Bolt on the scene, I don't know how many Jamaicans denounce being Jamaicans. No matter how bad things get, I don't know how many Jamaicans would say, I'm not Jamaican. I don't know. I submit to you that when things are going well in your country and when it's well developed and it's on the global map and everybody is hailing it as great, no matter how bad things may look, you would not denounce it. So if Africa was well developed and people were not laughing at Africa, then I submit to you that black people would be proud to say, I'm an African. So we got work to do. Africa is not this little country sitting somewhere out there. Africa is a beautiful place, but I got work to do. I'm here to work. I'm not here to just ask for your subscriptions. I'm not here to just take from you and not give back. I'm here to work, and I'm asking you to join me in that work. I'm asking you to subscribe, and I'm asking for your attention because I'm here for a work. I'm here as a servant. I'm not here to take from you. I'm here to take and to give. It's a transactional thing. I need your attention. That's your subscription is free. To like the videos, to comment, because the algorithm requires that in order for it to send the video out to other people of like mind. So I need that from you. That's the taking from you. But the work I've already started doing years ago to make sure that African music was something that was pleasurable to listen to. So I bumped it in New York City on my little boombox. I bumped it in the subways in Brooklyn, in Manhattan. I was bumping it to let people know that I'm proud to be an African. The work has already begun, but I got a lot more work to do, like Wode Maya, like all the other leaders that are out here doing this work. I'm here to ask you for your hand in helping me to do this work. I'm not waiting for Superman. I'm Superman. You're Superman. You're Superwoman. Let's work. You're paying attention now, so here I am. Welcome to Soul African Clothing. Welcome to Soul African TV. It's time for us to work. Just watch this video. If you haven't seen this video, let's watch it together.
Africa is a really massive continent, and most people don't even realize just how massive it is. Looking on a map, its size seems pretty unimpressive, and it looks to be a similar size to Greenland. But in reality, the continent is more than 14 times larger. And this is because the further land gets from the equator, the larger it appears to be on the map. This map distortion is also the reason why Africa seems so much smaller than it actually is. In fact, Africa is so large that the countries of Russia, India, China, the US, and Japan could fit inside it with plenty of room to spare. And just the single country of the Algeria is larger than the UK, Ireland, and Belgium all combined. But its land area isn't the only thing that's big. Africa is also home to 1.4 billion people, a huge number which is expected to increase to about 2.4 billion by the year 2000.
My friends, I'm here to let you know that we got work to do. If you are an African and you are a proud African, I don't care how you got here. I don't want to know your past. I don't care if you used to be ashamed and now you're here because Afrobeat made it out there. You came back to the fold because now it's popular to be African, so now it's okay, so you're back. I get it. Whatever reason brought you back to the fold, I'm just saying let's work. This channel is set up to have discussions on how we can do that work. We got to work from within. So we got to have some discussions on ideas like bridging the gap between African American and the Africans, We got to have that conversation. There's this movement where people are taking trips to Ghana, Nigeria, doing like Christmas season and stuff like that. We got to expand that a little bit. We got to educate people more on the things of Africa, the different African countries. I'm going to reach out to Watermeyer and see if we can do a live together, do something to where we can get more education. Please subscribe to Watermeyer's channel because he puts a lot of stuff out there where he's on the grounds going to different African countries and showing you how beautiful it is. It's not all just about beauty. And forget about the beauty part. We got work to do to make it beautiful. So it's not about me selling you the colors of Africa, the food of Africa, have to sell you Afro music and all that for you to be able to say, oh yes, Africa is good. No, forget about all of that. If it's ugly, let's make it beautiful together. We got to put pressure on these leaders. I'm not here to bash any leaders and say, oh, this person is corrupt, that person is, I know what I'm dealing with. I've been doing this for years. I know the work that is ahead. This is not going to be pretty. Everybody's going to have something to say about this. Oh, have you seen the leader of this country? Have you seen that? Yeah, you can complain all day and put everything in front of us that is wrong, but it's time for us to cut that out and get to work. So I'm ready to work. Are you ready to work? It's going to start with you not being ashamed to be African. And I'm not just talking about Africans. I'm talking about African Americans. I'm talking about Caribbean Africans. All sorts of Africans, Japanese Africans. I'm talking about all Africans. Are you ready to work? We got to bridge the gap and we got to stop pointing fingers. We got to stop putting people down. My angle is different. There has been people out here doing the work, but I'm coming at a different angle. Consider me like the Martin Luther King of the African space. I'm not the Malcolm X. I'm not here to slash nobody. And I'm just asking you to join me on this work. Please subscribe. And thanks to all the new subscribers who have come to this space. I'm ready to work, man. We cannot let this door that God has opened to close. If entertainment brought you here, if it's Afro beats, if it's doing the mukbangs, if you're looking at African food and you're trying it, now you're going out to different communities trying to find different African food. We're going to highlight different communities, where to find good African food in New York, where to find good African food in Minnesota. Maybe we're going to contact Tim Walz and the Harris campaign and say, hey, Tim Walz, we want to highlight some things in the African community in Minnesota. You feel me? We got to get some power. We're going to be responsible with that power, and then we're going to move some things. Because if people are going to stop making fun of us and say, go back to Africa, then it's going to be incumbent on us to make sure that Africa is desirable so that people can stop saying that. At that point, when they say it, it'll be silly because Africa is actually desirable. The only reason why people frown upon that saying is because Africa is not desirable. So once we make Africa desirable, we can get rid of some of that stuff. And then we got to start working on Africa United. That's a tough one. It's not going to be United States of Africa. It's going to be United Nations of Africa, UNA, so that when we go to the Olympics, we can share UNA, UNA. So we're not saying USA. There's already a USA. The United Nations of Africa, that's a conversation we need to have. Because I believe personally, and it's a conversation I've been having with friends, I believe that when Africa unites, it's going to solve a lot of the issues that are with Black people around the world. Bring it to America. Police brutality in America. I believe personally, a lot of the issues that we're having has to do with the fact that we do not have a united flag. And if we are a united people that have power, our resources are being controlled by a united government. When we do that, we now have the power to put sanctions on countries who do our citizens or the people that subscribes to our citizenship, whether you're in the diaspora or you're on the mainland, we can protect you. I believe it'll be harder for people to get away with doing us wrong. That's what I personally believe. But the work has to start somewhere. It started with a clothing line, So African Clothing, just putting the message out there, playing African music. That sunny Brooklyn day when I heard Davido on the radio, I was so proud because years before I was in the streets of New York playing African music. Imagine how proud I was when I finally heard African music playing on the airwaves, on the radio stations in America, in New York. I'm willing to work and I'm here to work and I'm asking you to please join me. It's not going to be easy, but nothing that's worth having has ever been easy. Let's work, man. I go by Harry Billion. And if my face looks familiar, it's because I'm in the football space and I'm in the political and social space as well. This is just another channel that I'm on, but this is specifically for Africa and Africans and trying to solve African issues. I'm a servant, man. I love to serve. And if you will have me, I'm willing to be a leader in this space. I'm Harry B. Welcome to Soul African TV. Let's work.